Hello, BookTube. I almost forgot to do mail today, but it's such a measly little shipment. 3 skimpy little packages, I almost threw them out without opening them. But you never know. Good things can come in small packages. We'll take a look at them, and we'll see. But look at this first one. That is a slim volume of poetry. Or I am the czar of all the Russians. So let's see what this is. But we're not afraid of slim volumes of poetry on this channel anymore, right? We're not. We're going to embrace them. Oh no, it's not a slim volume of poetry. No, it's not. It's not a slim volume of poetry. But it's something more immediately accessible. Let's just put it that way. It's the new Simenon. I mentioned before that this is Maigret in court. I mentioned before that Penguin is doing these lovely trade paperback new translations of all of Simenon. This guy was just inhumanly prolific, and his Maigret novels are he could churn one of them out in a very short amount of time, and yet they bear rereading. A lot of them are quite good. This one, let's see here. When Maigret is called to testify in court and reveals his doubts about a picture framer accused of double murder, his actions have tragic consequences that he could never have foreseen. I vaguely remember this novel. I know that it opens with a couple of very good scenes where Maigret is he's hardworking, very What's that? Huh? What's that? You want to see your fans? Huh? Huh? Those are your fans out there. Hello. Oh. Whoa. We met a 3-legged dog today on our walk, bouncing around, happy as could be, on 3 legs. But anyway, what was I saying before we all got distracted? Right. He's a by the book, very somber, incredibly competent inspector, and the opening, if I remember correctly, the opening of this book has a few really good little arias about how cops hate to go into court, and I can't wait. Fantastic. So this must be the latest Maigret. This is they give you a sort of a checklist of all the ones that are coming. And this one is Maigret in court, so it looks like there are about 10 left before they're done completely. Wow. Okay, great. What a fantastic way to start. Okay, let's just move on. I was expecting a slim volume of poetry. Instead, I get a book that I'm gonna cheese down right tonight. What have we got here? Okay. Okay, I don't know what this is. I did not request this. This is by Alf Clifford. It comes out in July, so a long time from now, and it's called Second Sight. So no points for originality with the title, but let's see what the book has to say. When Eliza Carmody returns to her small hometown after a destructive wildfire, she witnesses a crime that draws her back into the mysteries of a childhood she thought she'd left behind for good. When the biggest legal case of her career brings Eliza Carmody back to Kinsale, the hometown she thought she'd left forever, she witnesses an old friend commit a crime that sends her on a dangerous quest to uncover the mysteries of her childhood that the rest of the town seems willing to ignore. With her friend on the run and the police investigating the bones of an unidentified dead body at a historic homestead near town, Eliza becomes convinced that the truth lies in her memories of the New Year's Eve years ago when her friend Grace disappeared from Kinsale forever. While Eliza desperately explores the connections between the crimes of the present and those of the past, she begins to suspect that no one, not even her family, is telling the truth. So what is this? Well, I mean, what is this? Where is Kinsale, for instance? It's like it's out in the wilderness somewhere. Okay. Eliza Carmody is a Melbourne lawyer. This takes place in Australia, the one part of the world I have never visited. Okay, so this comes out in early July. I don't know anything about the series, and I don't know anything about this book except for one thing that I can, even now, months out, guarantee you beyond a shadow of a doubt. What was that line? With her friend on the run and the police investigating the bones of an unidentified dead body at a historic homestead near town, Eliza becomes convinced that the truth lies in her memories of the New Year's Eve years ago when her friend Grace disappeared from Kinsale forever. One rock-solid prediction about this book. Guess who makes a return to Kinsale? I'm thinking it's Grace. But we shall see. I am not going to read it for a very, very, very long time. But when I do, I'll keep an eye out for Grace. And now we have the third and final thing. And then we'll be done. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay. I think we saw this already on this channel. This comes out right around the corner. This comes out in mid-February. And it's a big Russian novel. It's a big Russian novel. It won the Yasnya Polania Award, the award named after Tolstoy's home estate. A huge chunk of which he lost in gambling in a card game. It was shortlisted for the Russian Booker, and it won the Russia Big Book Award. I don't know if that's, those of you who are in Russia, Elena Macrodina, is that actually what it's called? The Russian Big Book Award? Is that actually what the name translates to? One way or another, whatever they actually call it, I have read winners of that particular prize, and I love it. I think if that's not its actual name, it could do with the renaming here in the West. But I've loved a lot of the books that win that award. And this one is by Guzel Yakina, and it is Zulika. So this will become the second novel ever that has that word in the title, I would think. And this is a debut. This is the author's debut. Soviet Russia, 1930. Zulika, which means the pitiful hen, lives with her brutal husband Murtaza and her brother-in-law in a small Tartar village. Let the fools have their tartar sauce. When Murtaza is executed by communist soldiers, she is sent into exile in a remote region of the Angara River in Siberia. Hundreds die of hunger and exhaustion on the journey and over the first difficult winter, yet exile is the making of Zulika. As she gets to know her fellow survivors, Zulika begins to build a new life far removed from the one she left behind. And this is the author's outstanding debut, here translated by Lisa Hayden. So this came out... when did this come out? 2015. I would love to know what kind of a splash this made when it first came out. I have been to Russia many times. I have visited every inch of the country, including Siberia. And I have seldom met a people more absolutely head over heels in love with their own literature than the Russians. I don't know if that's true in the present day. I have no idea. Russia's been significantly open to the West since I was there. But the thing that I know that I noticed when I was there in the cities, especially St. Petersburg, and also way out in the hinterland, in the middle of nowhere, in grizzly bear country, was that they were head over heels in love with their literature, but it was always old literature. There's a famous story, I don't know if it's apocryphal or not, about a contemporary, a 20th century Russian poet, who was pulled over by a traffic cop in, I think, Moscow. And when the cop learned who he was, the cop said, let him off without any citation whatsoever, and said, "Please keep writing your poems." Which the anecdote, I think, was meant to reflect that literature has boiled down to every level of society, no matter where you go. And I saw a lot of that every time that I was there, except it was not contemporary. That anecdote would not have worked in my own experience, because the Russians that I met loved the literature, but not anything contemporary. They loved their classical literature. So obviously Russia has a thriving literary scene. I'd love to know more about it, what it's like in the 21st century. Like, for instance, the Russian Booker, the man Booker here in England, is a feverish source of bookish conversation. I wonder if that's true in Russia. But anyway, this now has an English language translation from the great folks at One World Press. So I will get to it in February. It's definitely on the docket. So that's it. That's our mail haul. We have Zulika, big fat Russian novel. We have this is all fictional. We have Second Sight, an Australian murder mystery. So we're moving down in size, and then all the way to the other end of the size spectrum, we have 120 pages soaking wet. We have Maigret in Court by Georges Simenon. So a little bit old, a little bit new, wonderful, fantastic. And, a little bit of an anemic mail haul, but we're going to have to make do with those. Those are going to happen. So I'll wrap this up for now, but we'll be back. There's plenty more bookish stuff to talk about. Thank you, BookTube.